It's time for Lefties Losing It. And Hassan Piker, the millionaire Marxist inciting commies to murder the rich.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those murder those in the street. Let the streets soak in their capitalist bloods, dude.
The dude who said America deserved 9/11, the miscreant who, despite advocating for violence and siding with terrorists, is nevertheless adored by Democrat politicians and media outlets, well, he's again sent some sage advice my way.
An Australian news broadcaster for skynews.com.australia talking about anti-American hatred demonstrated by the American Democratic Party against the American Republican president, Donald J. Trump. What are we doing here? Okay? Like, lady, don't you have a dingo story to cover? Why are you talking about Hassan Piker? It doesn't make any sense. Why is this lady defending the American Republican Party over the American Democratic Party? Like, this is not a thing for you. If anything, it's not beneficial for you to defend Donald Trump at all. What the hell are you talking about? Go cover the Wallabies.
Oh, Hassan, darling, it'll be a cold day in hell before I take advice from the likes of you. But you are right about one thing. It's not beneficial for me to defend Donald Trump, given how unhinged our own media is about the president. But I'm not here to get plaudits from the media, political or activist class. No thanks. Now, we love a public tantrum in this segment, and this next one is courtesy of Florida State Rep Angie Nixon. Shock horror, she's a Democrat. And here she is railing against democracy. This is how she reacted when Governor Ron DeSantis' new congressional map passed.
Destroy our democracy! This is a violation of the Constitution! It is! It's a violation of the Constitution. I'm out of order, but y'all are doing illegal.
Representative Persons Mullica has waived closed. The question now recurs on final passage of HB 1D. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will proceed to vote. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machine and announce the vote.
83 yeas, 28 nays, Mr. Speaker.
Show the bill passes. Read the next bill.
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
Oh dear, Democrats started this war and they're going to regret that, particularly once Florida and Texas are done redistricting. Now, we haven't checked on the ladies of The View all week. They had a rough show overnight after former counsellor to President Trump, Alina Habba, appeared as a guest. It was 5 against 1, but she had their measure. And bad news, ladies, there are more indictments coming.
Why should anyone believe this pattern of targeting Trump's enemies is about justice and not revenge?
If you think that the Russian collusion hoax, if you think that the things that we've now seen evidence of in this Department of Justice aren't real, I'd just tell you to sit tight because things are coming. Because what they did was weaponize. I don't want to hear about weaponization because the reason you all know who I am is because of weaponization. I sat through targeting people saying we're going to get Trump.
Let's go to New York City now, lefty heartland that is going through some hard times. People are fleeing due to the crime, the mismanagement, the high taxes, cost of living. People are fleeing to states like Florida, Texas and Tennessee. I wonder what those states have in common. Oh yeah, they're red, Republican states. But the good folk of New York keep voting blue, and it's even worse in New York City. In 2024, more than 80% of people in Manhattan voted for Kamala. And then New York City made a literal communist mayor. Zoran Mamdani calls himself a Democrat socialist, but he's a commie. Let's call things what they are. He's a commie who promised all sorts of free things to get elected, but 5 months into his reign and it's panic stations.
New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession. Years of mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting. We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue, and we need a structural reset in our relationship with the state. That is the only way to meet our legal obligation to pass a balanced budget.
So we've gone from free stuff for everyone to, oh no, we've run out of money and need new revenue sources in less than 6 months. As for the previous mismanagement, well, New York City has long been a blue city run by Democrats, and the locals keep electing more of them. To another socialist mayor, Seattle's Katie Wilson, who thinks it's a big joke that millionaires will flee her crime-riddled, high-taxing city.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown, and if the ones that leave, like, bye.
Yeah, hilarious. The people who pay pretty much all of the taxes are leaving, and she's waving them goodbye. One thing you can say about socialists is they are economically illiterate. Now, let's end Lefties for the week on a high note that has enraged all the right people. There was a meltdown on Instagram when rap legend 50 Cent shared this video after the latest attempt on President Trump's life. Many men may wish death upon him, but the president isn't going anywhere.
Believe me, because, it's my life, and I want to live because I want to make this country great. That's why I want to live. But when you're impactful, they go after you. When you're not impactful, they leave you alone.
Many men wish death upon me. Blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see. I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be.
Let's bring in one of my favourite New Yorkers now, documentary filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, let's start with the climate of hate, fear and violence that led to another assassination attempt. And I want to play you out in the wild talking to Americans about Trump being shot.
Would you have supported the assassination of Trump?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
You would support the assassination of Trump?
Sorry.
That's all right.
Interesting. I don't know. I have no idea.
Do you guys agree?
No comment.
I don't think I should say it on camera.
I think legally we probably shouldn't answer that kind of question.
Yeah, it's like, dude took a shot. Yeah. There was a little bit of like, missed opportunity. Like,
It was a missed opportunity.
Do you think that Trump, at the end of the day, will destroy our democracy?
I mean, not if they shoot his ass again. I would agree if that happened.
Would you be upset if Trump was assassinated?
I would not care. I mean, I wouldn't give a shit.
Do you think our country would be better off if Trump was assassinated?
Sure, yeah.
like everything he said, I'm on the same page.
If he was assassinated, would you lose sleep at night?
No. Wouldn't be extremely sad.
If you're asking me, do I want him to suffer in that sense, then yeah, I would not really lose sleep over it because he's an angry, violent white supremacist who's been preaching anger, hate, and violence.
Ami, the left has normalised political violence, and they appear oblivious to how they're guilty of the very things they accuse their political opponents of doing.
Yeah, my only regret for that video, Rita, is that I shot it in kind of the hard left area of New York. And the truth is, I should have shot that in the mainstream area, like my neighborhood, the Upper West Side, where there are mainstream Democrats. I would have gotten the same answers. That's the problem. Yes, of course, it's all coming from the left. There's this, like you said, this normalization of violence and rhetoric of violence, which is coming from mainstream Democratic lawmakers and media personalities, is the problem. Look, you have mainstream Democratic leaders calling Trump a Nazi over and over again. A Nazi, okay? I'm a Jew. 6 million Jews were put in ovens. That's how a Nazi behaves. And you're surprised when this kind of violence, or when they're talking about Mangione, I talked about it when it first happened. I said, this is the moment where everyday Democrats supporting political violence because they had no problem with it. Jimmy Kimmel joked about it. They all joked about it. And when you see the CNN elevate a guy like Hassan Piker, who supports outright terrorism, embraces terrorism, okay? And when he's normalized and he's raised on their platforms, this is the problem that we're talking about. Do we not remember that after Butler, when Trump was tried to assassinate him the first time, and there are people like, oh, we've got to cool down the rhetoric, including Joe Biden. What did Joe Biden do? The next day, he was on TV saying Trump is a threat to democracy. The next day. And look, they are trying to pivot from this, right? Really hard. They're trying to blame this all. No, most of the political violence comes from the right. Right? The Wall Street Journal, which, by the way, Anybody who thinks the Wall Street Journal news organization, the news organization, not the people who had the comments and the op-eds. The news organization is a very left-wing news organization. Okay, I know it's part of the family of News Corp, but that's the reality. And they had this whole article coming out trying to say that no, most violence comes from white right-wing people. And I won't go into the specifics of this data and how they got to it. It's so ridiculous. I went through it line by line. It is completely false. Look, they were saying that Josh Shapiro, the guy who tried to kill him and his family, immolate Josh Shapiro, the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania, wasn't a left-winger. The man was saying free Palestine and from the river to the sea. Yes. That's Republicans saying that? But they said, no, he didn't take a political position on local, U.S. politics, so we can't call him a left-winger. This is the level they're going to skew the data to try to obscure the fact that this is coming almost exclusively, and definitely primarily from the left.
Well, yeah, when you take data from activist bodies who predetermine their findings pretty much, then, yeah, you're going to get that result. But we've all seen the news for the last decade, and there has just been incident after incident. And no matter how you try to dress it up, this is a left-wing issue. This is not a both sides issue. And the longer you pretend it is, the longer you're avoiding dealing with it. And talking about hate and hysteria, Democrat Katie Porter, she wants to be the next governor of California. She sent an email to donors that included the phrase F Trump 4 times. Even in the subject line, she had F Trump. And she sent this army just a day after the most recent assassination attempt on President Trump. It's pretty clear that the Democrats do not want to turn down the temperature.
Yeah, it's so funny. I remember a Democratic operative on CNN saying, look how deep the Democratic bench is. And he referred to the people running in the Democratic gubernatorial race for California. I was like, what? Katie Porter shows how you have a deep bench. She is a deeply, deeply ugly woman. And I'm not talking about her physical appearance. Okay. This is nothing new. Look, Gavin Newsom, the former outgoing governor, had a zipper problem. Katie Porter has a potty mouth problem. Okay, this is nothing new. Remember, this is the woman who was saying all this horrible F words and invective to her own staff. Remember, she was proudly got up at the Democratic California State Convention with an F Trump sign, right? And repeatedly said to the donors in that letter and other letters, remember, I'm the woman with the white placard at the convention. She was lauding herself, saying, this is who I am. Okay, look. This came less than 20. Okay, the letter is one thing. This is kind of like normalized again, using that kind of language on the left. But for the letter to come out less than 24 hours, less than 24 hours after another assassination attempt is the issue. And even a bigger issue than that, going back to that same theme, is normalization. No Democrats condemned it. No one said, Katie Porter, what are you doing? Shut up. That's the problem. Katie Porter's not the problem. It's the other Democrats that allow for this to breathe, which is the problem.
Ami, a few minutes ago, I played a clip of your mayor talking about a budget crisis, he said, of historic magnitude. How bad is the financial position of New York City? And where's Zoran Mamdani going to find the money for all the free stuff he has promised?
It's really, really bad, okay? It's a $12.5 billion budget deficit, okay? For a little context, the Ukraine military budget is $6 billion, and they're holding off the entire nation of Russia, okay? The entire budget of the country of Chad is $12 billion. Okay, that actually I'm actually shocked that Chad spends $12 billion on their budget. That actually was actually pretty surprising. Maybe that's not a perfect example. No, and is it getting better? No, it's getting worse. Look, this is all because of left-wing spend and left-wing policies of the prior administration. And Mamdani, yeah, of course, he just started, right? The $12.5 billion is not his problem. But what does he do to solve this? He's spending more money, okay? We have a rainy day fund, which totals about $2 billion. It's there for a rainy day. If we have a problem, you can tap into that. Half of it is gone, spent by him just in the last couple of months, okay? And what he's spending, this is the guy spending right? Millions of dollars on state-owned groceries, which, by the way, is 4x what a private grocery store chain will cost to open up, right? This is the guy that's spending $12.5 million on a daycare center for 40 kids with a $2.5 million operating cost for 40 kids. That's more than the cost of Harvard, okay? And his solution to all, and by the way, not to keep going, but there's so much talk about here, 3 of the 4 major bond rating agencies are downgrading the city of New York to negative, which is going to increase our borrowing costs, creating this debt cycle we will not be able to get out of. And what's the solution other than spending more money? Oh, why don't we drive out the people who are actually paying the tax in the city? Let's do that. Or let's allow more fare evaders. Do you know that last year, 50% of people who got on New York City buses didn't pay a dime? They just walked right on because the city does not want to arrest black people, because they did a study that the majority of people who evade fares are people of color. They don't want to arrest them. So let's allow everybody to simply get on the New York City transit system, which is supposed to be one of the major revenue drivers for the city. That's where we're at. Sorry, I'm pissed. I'm upset. Yes, I live in the city and they're destroying it.
Army, let's go back across the country to LA. There's a race to be the next mayor, and one of the front runners is a former reality TV star. He's got some Trump-like qualities. He's saying that he wants to return LA to its golden age.
This is where Mayor Vass lives. You notice something? Or here, where Nithya Raman's $3 million mansion sits. They don't have to live in the mess they've created where you live. This is where I live. They let my home burn down. I know what the consequences of failed leadership are. That's why I'm running for mayor.
What do you think his chances are? He's getting some high-profile support. His messaging is brilliant. His ads are very good. He knows what he's doing there, given that he has zero experience in politics. Could he pull it off?
He could pull it off. And by the way, his ads have been phenomenal. That was a great ad. Maybe my favorite ad was he went to the 6th Street Bridge in Los Angeles, which you couldn't see him because it's pitch dark because there's no lights there. Because Karen Bass, by the way, low-key, one of the worst, if not the worst mayor in the entire country. It's a running gun battle between her, Mamdani, and the mayor of Chicago. She is really one of the worst. She's been there for a long time, has a tremendous amount of institutional support in the city and electoral support. But yeah, his ad on the 6th Street Bridge, he went there because Karen Bass said, hey, if anybody wants to go there, you could steal all the copper wiring from the lights. And that's exactly what they did. They went and stole all the copper wiring from the lights because they want to put up, a solar panel lighting. Because, yeah, they're not going to steal that, right? No, it's horrific. He's got a chance because the city, people are finally, look, I know you laugh at me. I've said it over and over again. The state of California, it's just not lost. I know it's been lost for decades, but it was, in fact, a purple to red state when I was a kid growing up. And I want to believe, Rita, I want to believe it can happen again.
Well, that was before literally millions of immigrants went there and the demographics changed quite dramatically. So you live in hope that California could become purple or red again. I see it as deeply, deeply blue, but it will be fascinating to see the outcome of the race of who's the next mayor of LA. Army Horowitz, always a pleasure.
Pleasure of mine.
Joining me now is host of the Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered podcast, Kinsey Schofield. The king is still in town and everyone has been sharing their fun interactions with him. He seems to be quite the comedian, I have to say.
Indeed, you recently commented, Mr. President, that if it were not for the United States, European countries would be speaking German. Dare I say that if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking French.
That got a smile from the president. Now, I'm not sure if the king or queen were keen on Jesse Waters' humour. Listen to what happened.
King had no idea who I was. And so I said, I'm on Fox and I have 2 shows. And he goes, well, they must really love you here. I said, yes. And so we go down and there's the queen. And I said, well, how was the beehive? And she goes, It was very good. No one got stung. And then I said, well, you know, in Washington, D.C., you know, if the bees don't get you, the guns will.
You said that?
Yeah. And then this woman just starts pulling me away from the Queen.
And the King and Queen also met Greg Gutfeld.
I predicted exactly what the conversation was. I go to Elaine, I go, you know, okay, 10-1, Trump looks at Charles and goes, this guy, he's great. He's got the #1 show late night. You'll love him. And I walk in and Trump goes, there he is. He's got the #1 show late night. And Charles like, oh, do you? Very nice. Where is this late show that you talk about? I go, it's on Fox. I go, I see, it's on Fox. Very good.
Did you tell him you lived in the UK?
No, I didn't. You don't have that kind of time with him. And then I took off with Camilla.
Kinsey, good times for the royal couple, but was there any signs of the wayward son, Harry?
No, I mean, I think one of the requirements for engaging with the real royals this week was being employed. But in all seriousness, my hearing sources told me that between President Trump and the sea of journalists, two of Harry's defined enemies, the American president and the media, that room was Harry's idea of hell on earth.
So no Harry, incredible. Now, New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani had this to say ahead of his meeting with King Charles.
So you haven't thought about anything you might say if you say hello to him and he stops to chat?
You know, if I was to speak to the king separately from that, I would probably encourage him to return the Kohinoor diamond.
Well, Mamdani did meet the royals. The King and Queen visited the site of the original World Trade Center and met with families of those killed in the 9/11 attacks. Kinsey, did Mamdani ask his silly question?
Surprise, surprise, New York's favorite champagne socialist is all talk. No, the same guy you would see at a No Kings rally was on his knees for, well, a literal king. Hypocrisy on full display.
Well, we saw that really with all the Democrats. When the King gave that speech, they were in raptures, jumping up to applaud. And, yeah, they are so triggered by the concept of a king at home. Now, the state banquet looked amazing. Both leaders gave speeches. President Trump said King Charles agreed with him that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon during the state banquet. That prompted a response from Buckingham Palace, who wrote in a statement, the King is naturally mindful of his government's long-standing and well-known position on the prevention of nuclear proliferation. Sounds like a yes to me there, Kinsey.
I totally agree with you, but I also have a theory about this. To me, the King's speech to Congress was political and leaned left. There were also a few subtle swipes at the Trump administration, in my opinion. And while this was initially written off as an unscripted comment, I wonder if this was an intentional comment by the president to put the king in an uncomfortable position, almost retaliating for that congressional speech.
That's very interesting concept there. The speech, you're right. I mean, Charles, it's Charles. So for him, that speech to me was rather measured because we know his own politics leans heavily left. Some of his positions on climate change and other issues are really quite radical. So you think that was President Trump just giving him a little whack back?
I do. The way that Trump was so overly kind, and I was jealous. I loved it when he was asked about the speech. I think that he is one of the best people when it comes to revenge. And this was, if this is intentional, I think it was a pretty good move, forcing Charles into this corner and that he can't worm his way out of. You can't say, no, I'm pro-nuclear weapons. You can't.
Yeah, particularly the Iranian regime. Yes, I'm all for the Iranian regime having nuclear weapons when they're threatening to wipe out Israel and Europe and much of America. Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Yeah, he really did corner him. He couldn't do anything but agree with that statement. Now, let's talk about Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War. His wife is being attacked. Can you believe this, Kinsey? She's being attacked by the left for wearing a $42 dress to the 2026 White House Correspondents' Dinner. She looks amazing. I mean, that is a beautiful-looking dress on her. A self-described socialist socialite named Ella Devi is among those critical of Jennifer Hegseth for her style choice. I mean, are these people serious? She's a mother of 4. She's wearing an inexpensive dress. Is that something to be attacked for? I mean, I just don't get who they're trying to appeal to with these attacks.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes off as mean-spirited. We complain about privilege, and then we criticize a woman for not being expensive enough. Pick a lane. She looked beautiful, and I think most normal people watching at home probably appreciated the accessibility.
Now, let's talk about Elon Musk. And Reuters has obtained an IPO filing from SpaceX that says no one can fire Elon Musk from his role as chief executive and chairman of the board without Elon's consent. Kinsey, after all, it's his company and looks like it's going to remain that way.
I mean, on a gut level, heck yeah, every entrepreneur would love to write that into their contracts. But the reason SpaceX can do that is because investors are betting on Elon, not just the business. That kind of control only works when your name is the asset.
Now, Zoe Kravitz, Page 6, is reporting that the actress and pop superstar Harry Styles are engaged. These are two people I do not give a stuff about, Kinsey, but I know the audience out there cares. So what more can you tell me?
Well, I can tell you that I'm not handling this well. You know, I am curious to know
you're not one of those.
Reach. I'm one of those.
Oh, you're not one of those. Oh, Kinsey, you're too smart for this.
I know.
What is the appeal? He's just so mid. I don't get the appeal. Women, particularly women who ordinarily like manly men, how do you go for a Harry Styles?
Honestly, I think it's just his accent. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know what he's got going for him. But you live in a world full of beautiful accents, so you probably cannot relate to that. But I would love to be a fly on the wall because Zoe is best friends with Taylor Swift. Harry Styles, Taylor Swift's ex-boyfriend. So we'll have to wait and see if they officially confirm this. She has been seen with a huge rock on that finger. And they've been dating for a little while, so only time will tell. But how many of these relationships actually work out in the long run?
Well, it seems to be different in the celebrity world. In normal human interactions, you probably wouldn't be dating your friend's ex. But then we've got the Kardashians, and you've got Kim Kardashian right now with Lewis Hamilton, who dated one of her sisters, Kinsey. I mean, it seems to just be different rules in that world.
Well, you know, President Trump told King Charles that his mother had a crush on him. And we just found out that they are like cousins 15 times removed. So incest is like in right now, you know?
Yes. Well, yeah. Okay, less said about this, the better. Before you go, just quickly, tell me about this documentary that Elliot Page, formerly Ellen, is involved in.
This is really weird. So Elliot Page is co-producing this. It's a film called Second Nature, and it's Page basically has said that he feels compelled to share this information with the world to help children, and it's about same-sex relationships and gender fluidity and in the animal world. This is so uncomfortable to normal people because why do younger children need access to this kind of information?
Yes, let's confuse the children.
Right.
Let's confuse the children even more, Kinsey. Kinsey, we've run out of time. Thank you so much